Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Infopedia. I'm your host, Crage2.
I'm Frankie.
And I'm T-Fed.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing one of America's finest traditions, Shark Week.
I love Shark Week. We're actually recording this during Shark Week right now, and the smell is unimaginable.
Yeah, every year on the last full week of July, we're joined together to celebrate one of America's most misunderstood traditions.
A time when the seaweed is stinking bright on all of the oceans across this great nation of ours.
And although it's localized to the Great Nevada Bay region, it's observed and celebrated all over the country.
And sometimes outside of the U.S. as well.
Yeah, by some enclaves of people in other places.
But before we get into the episode, I would like to thank our sponsor, Hummer, for providing us with the money to do the production.
Say, Franklin, have you ever driven a small car for pathetic people?
You wouldn't be caught dead in one for me.
That's right. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're not driving a Hummer...
You might as well be dead.
Hummer, you might as well be dead. Thanks.
Thank you, Hummer. Make sure to use the coupon checkout website gift code, access code of HummerBaby93.
HummerBaby93 for a
buy one, get one
discount. It's a BOGO sale, folks.
It's a BOGO sale.
It's a Shark Week BOGO sale here at Hummer.
So onto the show.
So, Shark Week, it's something that we grew up with, and it's quite nostalgic. It has a firm place in our country's culture and history.
But it's actually more recent than you may think. In fact, the sharks that we know for Shark Week haven't been in the Great Nevada Bay until the, 1800s or something?
The 1800s is true.
1899.
So the sharks that we know of from Shark Week were initially endemic to the Dead Sea in the land of Canaan. They are known as the Dead Sea Sharks, which gave the sea its moniker, the Dead Sea.
Right. And why were they called Dead Sea Sharks? Well, an archaeologist found the Dead Sea Scrolls clasped in the jaws of an ancient Dead Sea shark.
2,000 years ago, the shark ate the scrolls and was discovered 2,000 years after it ate the scrolls 2,000 years ago.
Which was before even the Malone Empire got this whole thing flying.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were named that for a very peculiar reason. The words Dead Sea Scrolls were clearly written at the top of the famous archaeological artifact themselves.
In English.
In English.
How do they know that?
Well, they knew many things that even modern medicine can't solve. So the sharks were thought to have eaten all the sea creatures in the Dead Sea, as no other living creatures in the sea have ever been found. But how did the Dead Sea sharks survive without prey? They had to be getting their nutrients from somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. And pioneering research by the American biologist Boston Arnold led to the discovery of flies.
Now, flies is the word used to describe an ecosystem composed of very small bugs that are all mutually symbiotic. They're just barely visible to the human eye, unless you look real close. And it turns out that the Dead Sea is just teeming with flies.
Yeah, that's actually where we get the term fly swatter as well, to refer to things that are filled with bugs.
Since the small bugs look like flies and fleas to Boston Arnold, he coined the term flies, concluding that the Dead Sea sharks survive on fly swatter. The Dead Sea is also known as having an extremely high sodium level, which also contributes to the lack of any other large animals in the sea. But the Dead Sea sharks have been the only megafauna to have been adapted to the harsh waters, with their gills being able to extract water from both salt, sand, and silt, which pollutes the sea. They are highly adapted to what is known in the scientific community as dry waters.
That's right, and that's going to be important later, so make sure
absolutely.
to write that
Write
down
that
in
one
your
down
notebooks.
in your little notebook.
It will be on the test.
So, in 1899 PM, the British were shipping some sharks to England to be displayed in the Royal Museum, and a tragic boat accident caused the ship to sink in the Great Nevada Bay region.
Let me get something straight. The British went to Canaan,
Yes.
where the Dead Sea sharks were. Britain, the British Royal Navy, was sent on a mission to, I guess, maybe investigate that area, and then as a specimen, they took some of those sharks back with
Right.
them. At least they intended to England, but something happened.
Yeah, the ship crashed.
Where did
And this happened in the Great Nevada Bay.
how did they get into the Great Nevada Bay?
Isn't that on the other side of the
It's
world?
They had to take the long way. But in any case, they were released. Being released into the Great Nevada Bay, the sharks soon wiped out all of the sea creatures in that area.
Not all of them, just some of them.
Well, that's what many will say.
There's still like crabs existing in the Great Nevada Bay.
That's true.
But with no natural predators, they spread quickly and changed the ecosystem permanently. How, you might ask? Very carefully. Look, the Navy was sent to guard the entrance to the bay by creating a big wall of boats from end to end. An impressive feat, as the Great Nevada Bay is quite large, where it was, and shot any sharks that came near the platoon of boats in an event we know now as Shark Shock, or the Shark Shock.
I have a personal question for you guys. Did either of your grandparents serve in the Shark Shock?
My grand Peppy served in what he called the Great War. He was a drinker of salt water. He was a shooter of sharks, and no one in our family has ever brought a unique stink of victory to our home the way he could.
That's wonderful. My grandfather actually fought in Shark War 1, unfortunately on the side of sharks, so he didn't make it.
Well, it's moving on as part of going forward.
Oh, and fuck what Frankie has to say about the situation. I believe the question was posed to all of us. Anyway,
you still have a chance. It's your turn now.
basically, my grandmother was the person who had the idea to create the massive wall.
Really?
Yeah. Her name was Francine Cronatia.
I find that a bit hard to believe, since that would have been like a major military decision that one woman could probably not make on her own.
Have you never heard of Francine Croatia?
Cronatia? No, I've never heard of Francine Cronatia, and I might never again, because this is a story full of holes.
The thing about it was that she disguised herself as a man, much like Mulan would have done. And anyone would have done the same. Look, she had a lot of great ideas. She had them and walked up to the Navy and said, "Knock, knock, it's me, Frank Croatia." He rose up quickly through the ranks, becoming a lieutenant and then even a sergeant. That's when she proposed the idea.
Amazing.
That's incredible. And I hear that she actually met the president.
That's correct.
Wow.
She met the prez. Who knew?
Who knew?
I did.
So this is like 21 years later then. The ecosystem of the Great Nevada Bay was flourishing. America is very prosperous at this time, as we all know, after the post-Shark War boom.
The ecosystem, not only of the time had changed, but the ecosystem of the biological community within the Great Nevada Bay region had changed. And now it was only home to the creatures that were able to survive the ravenous sharks. By this time, an economy started thriving in the cities surrounding the bay, and voyagers who were able to cross the waters for trade profited immensely during this time period. And this was possible only because the sharks were only aggressive for 1 week out of the year, which is the week that we all know as Shark Week.
Now, the rest of the year, they normally eat creatures like birds, ants, armadillos, snakes, and desert crabs. But during Shark Week, they engage in their little breeding ritual, in which the males become ultra aggressive and feed on human flesh in an attempt to impress female mates.
So is it only the male sharks who do that? Not the female ones?
As far as I understand it, it's male sharks and lesbian sharks as well.
Oh, okay,
I see,
right.
I see.
Gender equality.
That's great. Good for them.
Very egalitarian society on the part of the sharks.
The next step for the United States government, of course, was to eliminate all of the sharks. And this was known as an initiative called the Great Nevada Bay Drainage Initiative, or the Draining, which was passed in the bill, the Great New Water Deal.
Yeah, this was huge. This was like this is kind of what America was known for.
It's like
from,
this, yeah.
Yeah, from the 30s to the 90s. It was the...
For sure.
50% of all American income was directly funneled, like figuratively and literally, into a vat, which was then used by accountants to fund the infrastructure projects known as...
The Great New Water Deal.
That's correct.
So from the 30s to the 90s, the Great Nevada Bay was drained in an effort to kill the holiday-ruining sharks by pumping out all of the water and using it to quench the thirst of America's crops and citizens. And that also just happened to coincide with the week just before the summer holidays.
The sharks that survived the shark shock were a threat to sailors and many shipments full of goodies that had to be delivered for the holiday seasons. But during this process of drainage, 2 new divergent species of sharks hyper-evolved during a 70-year period. The sewer sharks, which were water sharks that lived in the sewers of the Great Nevada Bay Water Deal pipe, and the sand sharks, which remained in the bay and used their mammalian evolutionary abilities to learn to swim through sand. Now, what I'm most curious about while we were doing this research is how are the sand sharks able to breathe the sand instead of the water?
Well, the Dead Sea sharks, they were already like sort of acclimated to this kind of environment, being like living in such like a high salt value for such a long time in the Dead Sea. As we are all aware, sand is made of rocks, and rocks are made partially of water, and water is made partially of air. So they can get a little bit they get a little bit less air from the sand, but like they still get it from the water. It's just like how gills of fish like convert water into air. It's like the same thing, but like one extra step.
And
That's amazing.
And that's enough air for the average shark to eat?
Yeah, well, drink, or I mean, breathe.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're very hardy. So the Great Nevada Bay draining, that was an effort not only to exterminate the sharks from the bay, but also to provide water to all of the surrounding regions until the bay was drained. Sort of a double whammy, which was a fantastic idea until in the 90s when the bay was drained and the infrastructure became obsolete.
Basically instantaneously.
Yes, but it then has become a very popular tourist attraction to go on tours with. And again, my 3.5 honeymoon with Crage was in the pipes of the Nevada Bay region, and it was very arid.
But while it was a fun tourist attraction for many people also criticized the way that the New Water Act deal was implemented. It was implemented by a very unpopular president, and it became a fundamentally unpopular bill. And it also allowed the proliferation of sharks into various regions in the greater Nevada, Utah, Colorado areas through the massive pipe they built, due to an engineering oversight in which the pipe was accidentally created big enough for sharks to transfer through. I personally think that that's the kind of thing that you don't really have the ability to plan for. Some things you can't. You don't. Hindsight's 20/20.
That's a huge oversight. I would have seen it coming.
Well, maybe, but I think that as someone who's had to make big drainage projects like this as a part of my professional career, there's some things you just can't foresee, and the size of the pipe is something that's basically up into the air until it's made.
Please stop lying about your past work history.
I don't think that you know that because you didn't even read my resume before we started the show, so I know that because it's.
I can. Your past just by looking into your eyes.
Remember how all the truth is inside?
Of me?
No.
Of all of us.
All of us. It's in the
So
air.
then it's not me when I'm saying something. I don't get to say the truth. It's just when you see it.
We see that you're lying.
We see that you're lying.
So there was a lot of consequences about this phenomena that occurred. So the humans had become food for the sharks. As we all know, the Shark Week was of an apocalyptic scale in terms of how many people were being eaten.
Yeah, personally, I remember all of the drills at school that we had to do where they would make us, again, hide under desks as though
Just in
that was
case.
going to do anything.
Well,
that
I mean,
worked.
my school was like in a big sand pit, so like it made sense for us, but like
Right.
it was weird that it was applied to all schools across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What if
like,
you transfer and you can't just be, you gotta be on your toes.
true. But that's kind of why they had those federally funded PSAs that were syndicated all throughout the country on pretty much every single broadcast channel available at the time. And, you know, it created a ripple of fear throughout the body politic. And
That's right.
what happened then is a very interesting anthropological and sociological phenomenon in which, in order to deal with our fear, the American people leaned into it by doing things like creating shirts with sharks on them, little hats with sharks on them, little shirts with sharks on them.
Don't forget the little toys with sharks on them.
And the video games starring sharks, special movies starring sharks, real sharks, TV shows starring fake sharks, cartoons of sharks that are not real, posters, pogs, stamps, pins, and finally puzzles, and that's the only thing they made.
I have this Shark Week puzzle. Like, it's one of like the ones where you like move the tiles around and there's like one missing one. And I have not. I think it's broken. I haven't solved it in like 12 years of having it.
I have a one-piece shark puzzle that my grandma got me for Christmas, and I haven't opened it yet.
Do you think that the one-piece shark puzzle with you goes actually to the 8-piece like shark puzzle that you're missing a piece from? Like, I know it
my God.
only comes with 8, but do you
only
think
now thinking?
Well, no, it's broken because
Well,
there's
so
only
the
8
issue
pieces.
is that I'm kind of under the impression that it might have been a poster.
that the puzzle was
It might have not been.
how big was the piece? If you were to,
Well, I didn't open it wasn't really in a box. It was like rolled up.
the piece was rolled up?
Yeah,
That's a poster.
that's a poster.
That's a poster.
Okay. So during this time when we really honestly should have been most afraid of the sharks, we sort of chose to celebrate them the most. And this phenomena, as we all know, became known as Sharkholm syndrome.
Rippled across the country, it did.
Like a shockwave.
Like a shark wave.
So
That's right.
Most of the momentum for the 20th century anti-fish movement was originated from this Shark Week due to the egregious loss of life, the destruction of the holiday goodies through the trade routes that were ravaged by sharks, and the embarrassing t-shirts that people were forced to wear against their will, in my family at least.
I mean, I think it was a minority that was against their will.
Well,
The results are still out, and you can vote on your phones now using code 4569.
people are quite nostalgic for Shark Week because of all of the classic television that aired on TV. As we mentioned before, the most notable of these is the Charlie Brown Shark Week special. It's a Shark Week miracle, Charlie Brown. And in the special, one of the scenes that really stuck out to me the most is when Linus and his blanket were...
Spoiler alert.
Well, if you haven't seen this, turn off the
We've all
podcast right. Yeah, but you've seen this. I mean, duh, you're speaking English. You can see this. Linus and his blanket were eviscerated by a deadly sand shark named Good Grief.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like isn't that what Charlie Brown says?
Well, in a matter of thinking, it was kind of the Saving Private Ryan of our generation in the sense that it saw so much gore and viscera on television that many people who were survivors of the Great War were given PTSD as a gift by the television program. And this was a controversial move, and many people said that this was in bad taste or it was in glorification of the Shark War, to which the creators generally responded that it was, because it was really cool, and the Shark War was just inherently a fun, like, exciting war where we were the good guys, for once.
For once. Now, as it stands currently, sharks remain a daily threat to American existence.
During Shark Week.
During Shark Week, that is.
There are a lot of preventive measures that we take, right?
Yeah, so there are some things we can do during Shark Week that prevent sharks from, slurping our delicious flesh off of the bone.
Person juice.
Sharks have been known as haters of lemon haters. So there is lots of lemonade and other citrus yummies during the Shark Week. Why is it preventative? Because they don't like it and they don't eat it. The sharks generally won't attack people who have some kind of like Montreal spice seasoning, which we all know has lemon pepper. Any other kind of citrusy herbs such as orange pepper, grapefruit pepper, that kind of thing. So
I've been opting more for like a kind of perfume.
The issue with the perfume and that method is that it doesn't work. The only way is for it to become inside of you, for the lemon to affect you personally. It's really, as the saying goes, play garlic to a vampire, lemon to a charcoal.
It's like garlic to a charcoal.
Vampire, play violet to a gimmick and garlic in a car hole.
My car has a few holes.
I gave my car a new hole, if you know what I'm fucking saying.
There are no holes in the Hummer, though, except for the gas hole and the exhaust pipe, I suppose.
In a shocking turn of design ingenuity, the Hummer is the first holeless car to prevent one of the many problems that are induced by hole-based technology, such as the proliferation of little sharks. Many are against the companies and corporations that are profiting off of the Shark Week. People are becoming more aware of shark rights. With their great influence and power during Shark Week, these corporations have, over time, made it seem like what would you guys call it?
Kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Kind of in vogue, I guess.
It's kind of like COVID, where initially it was scary, but now it's like was remembered as really cool.
That it happened and that
it was good. The companies and corporations that were profiting off of Shark Week they're just kind of, to many people, making it seem like the sharks are getting worse and that the people are dying more during Shark Week. When we know that this is true, it's not, many people can't understand whether it's a fault of a corporation or perhaps neither at all.
It could, again, be a sort of grassroots movement from the body politic in order to
have more fatalities.
Have more fatalities. B, influence propaganda. To C, then continue more fatalities. And a vicious cycle.
Oh, that's terrible. So this whole Shark Week did definitely pose a problem to the American citizens, especially those at the Great Nevada Bay region. Since so many people were dying from shark attacks, the government decided that it would be more fair to have a lottery system to determine who would be eaten by the sharks each year.
In a shocking turn, this was sort of manipulated and flipped around by the major media companies to create a form of entertainment out of this in the form of a game show that we now contemporarily know as Shark Tank.
This fun summer activity was manipulated and flipped around by major media companies such as TQC, HMA,
LMA,
LMAO, and LMAO 2, 3, and 4.
The Chris R channel.
The Chris R channel, which is exclusively magic except for on Shark Week, which is then Shark Magic, obviously. Into a sort of reality game show that we now contemporaneously know as Shark Tank, in which the contestants fight for their right, in quotes, to not be eaten by a shark. Although in some cases, it is more so for the honor of getting to be eaten by a shark in a very Aztec, hi mom, I'm on TV sort of way, bringing honor and courage and honor to the family.
When you think about it, this is sort of the beginnings of influencer culture.
That's right. I agree with you.
The result of this is many people
Craig.
The result of this is many people not.
Craig 2, you've been doing so good this episode.
Thank you.
Good job, Craig.
I'll do anything I can do. The result of this was that many people stopped realizing that this is a real threat and that these shows were reality and not really fake, as they once said. But we all agree that one really great thing came out of Shark Week, which was that Suzanne Collins would adapt this phenomena into the famous series The Hunger Games.
This was actually the first reality show that ever got adapted into a fictional book series. But it would be far from the last.
And it would be far from fiction, since most of the phenomena that occurred in the book were simply with the names flipped around a little bit. I never read the books because personally I was not allowed to read.
Until age?
That's all the time we have for today's episode.
Again, I just really liked watching the Travel Channel and they had this one program where one lucky shark would be chosen to be like a special guest of a water park, and then they would basically follow the shark around as it strut in its one piece up and down the stairs of the, what do you call it, the water slides, and then they would follow them down the water slides, and then the footage would always end when they got to the bottom because cameras aren't waterproof.
This makes sense. I was a big fan of the television program The Shark Whisperer, in which a select therapist of the shark persuasion was given free rein to swim with the sharks in an effort to learn about their mannerisms and not just learn, but to control their behavior and influence them to be less of a menace to society. The unfortunate thing was the show was canceled very abruptly after a animal-induced fatality that tore one of the cast members asunder.
So my favorite character is Smelly the shark. You guys remember Smelly?
I love Smelly.
Like 10 years ago, Smelly,
One of the
shark,
only
would be on
characters
TV,
that
just
matters.
telling kids to, hey kids, make sure to put on some lemon spray because there's sharks roaming about like me. I'm gonna get ya. And he would like kind of scare it, and his eyes would turn red, and it really scared the kids.
The issue I had with the commercials is that the first like generation of them, they're like, or I'll get you, and then that was the first 10 seconds of the commercial was the PSA, and the remaining 10 minutes of the commercial was them being feasted upon.
Well, that's about it for Shark Week.
But before we go, we have a little segment we like to call People Who Wrote Letters to Us.
If you don't mind, I'd like to read the first letter. I'm going to be opening this up shortly. Okay, excellent. And we have a viewer, Charncombe, who writes, Dear T-Fed, thank you for bringing the information...
Sorry, we apologize. Our studio is currently being shark-proofed and fumigated. The termites and cockroaches have been complaining that they haven't gotten high in a while, and we're
time to just turn it up a notch for these guys. Let them get a little litty while their short lifespans still permit it. T-Fed, I love listening to Infopedia. One of my favorite parts of Infopedia is the fan mail, but can you tell us, what address should people be mailing letters to if they want to reach you? Sincerely, Charklin.
Charklin, well, it's really great that you sent this letter. But one thing I do have to mention is that this letter got to us without you.
Oh, sorry, there's a backside. It says, P.S. I have brute forced sent this letter to every address in the United States. Hope this reaches you soon.
Wow, Charklin. Well, what a great amount of effort you put out into reaching us. And sorry to all other businesses and private individuals who have been affected by the letter, but you can reach us by sending You can reach us by sending a letter to TFED.
at
I'm sorry?
I think it's time for our next letter. Why don't you do the honors?
Oh, okay. I would love to do the honors. This one...
It's a charming letter already.
Sorry.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I was looking at this one earlier. It's so funny.
Dude, I can't believe... Who would write something like that?
Okay.
This is...
Who does
By the way,
that?
guys, this is crazy. You're not going to believe what Frankie is about to say.
Okay. This letter comes in from Bat Thong Patches, who write, Hey guys, I'm so glad you picked this topic of Shark Week. I love this episode that I've already somehow listened to. But next time, can you please chew a little more gum? Love, Bat Thong Patches.
Who does that?
I am anti-gum, anti-dip. I think, I don't know if I said this.
I'm pro foresight.
Brennan, you're pro what?
I'm pro foresight, meaning the way that this reader, watcher, listener was able to understand in advance the subject material of the latest podcast.
Stop reading the future. It's really invasive. Anyway.
Hard to disagree. Keep up the good work.
Okay, we have one last letter here. This is from Montana. Hannah from Montana writes, "Hey gang, how do I take care of my rabbits because they're out of control? They're breeding like mad. They're overflowing the house."
They're breeding like sharks.
They're really breeding like my ex-wife with her new husband. Those little critters, you can find them just about anywhere, even if you don't want them there.
Well, personally, I love bunnies, and I think that the more bunnies there are in the world, the better the world is morally.
And the better the world is, the happier we'll be.
And the happier we be.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this classic episode of Infopedia.
Please remember to use our coupon code HummerBaby43 at checkout when you buy your Hummer, so you may just get another one coming in your mail
You
box.
can get another one.
It is, you have to assemble it yourself, but
Only a little bit. Most of it's already done.
Not just the easy parts, though.
You in the other room, we can hear someone assembling a Hummer as we speak.
yeah, I think so.
It's not that hard. If he can do it, you can too. As per usual, I'm Kraish too.
I'm Frankie.
And I'm T-Fed.
Stay info.